Good afternoon on today's Angry Bulletin. The latest UFO cover-up is underway. Everybody from the mainstream media to Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, the head of AARO, to William Shatner are attacking the credibility of the UFO or UAP whistleblowers, whatever you want to call them, that recently testified in front of Congress. These influential people are calling the testimony everything from ridiculous to insulting, but are they going to be able to shovel all of this under the rug as it has been done in the past? Or is this a fundamentally different development that is impossible to cover up? All of this and more coming at you on The Angry Astronaut right now. Good afternoon, and once again, welcome to The Angry Astronaut. Once again, a very quick update on the North America tour, because a number of you, the UFO enthusiasts amongst you, may have not heard about this particular tour, simply because all of the information has been released in somewhat more conventional spaceflight videos that I've been doing lately, so just want to make sure I have all of the bases covered. My first tour date is taking place close to the city of Orlando, a small town located between Tampa and Orlando, actually, and all of the details on this are going to be in the description. It's taking place in 6 days now, on August the 12th. At 1:30 p.m. If you would like a ticket, it's $10. You can use PayPal, or you can go through Patreon and become a member of my Discord server, or you can contribute to the GoFundMe page, whichever you prefer, as long as I get an email confirming that you made that $10 donation, so you get a ticket along with a digital copy of my book when it comes out later this month. Okay, on to the topic at hand. So it's been a while now since we've had the revelation of the UFO whistleblowers in front of Congress, 3 very credible witnesses providing some amazing details about something that, frankly, even I didn't think was a possibility back a couple of years ago. And this is the whole UAP phenomena, and the fact that they had an opportunity to not only visualize but also track on a number of different types of reconnaissance instruments or military surveillance instruments the activities of craft that have superior capabilities to any aircraft at our disposal. We're talking about Mach 7 speeds, sudden turns that any aircraft would simply be incapable of executing, and also suddenly ascending up to suborbital space and then dropping down to about 20,000 feet. Amazing things that not only were visualized, not only caught on camera, but also were tracked on radar, on IR sensors, etc. So given all of this overwhelming data, some people have begun to conclude, myself included actually, that we are not alone, that there's something here, something not human, something that seems interested in our military capabilities, and maybe surveying other aspects of our civilization, but a civilization with technological capabilities far superior to our own. That being the case, though, predictably, the media, scientists, powerful decision makers, powerful movers and shakers in our culture have now come out in opposition to all of this, saying that this simply cannot be true. And they've gone from criticizing the testimony to talking about how ridiculous it would be for aliens to traverse anywhere from millions of light years to 10,000 light years or whatever, when really they wouldn't have to traverse nearly that much space to come visit us, most probably. But for them to have done all of these things only to pop their heads up every now and then and not really reveal their presence to us, or just behave in the way they have been behaving. But all of this criticism has been in stark contrast to the facts. And when it comes right down to it, there are very good reasons for alien visitors to be behaving in the way that they are currently behaving. The thing that I find the most ridiculous is William Shatner's criticism, saying that anybody who traveled 10,000 light years to come here and just hide, that made no sense at all. Well, that actually is precisely what his fictional character, Captain James T. Kirk, did week after week.
Now, energize and detonate.
Okay, so admittedly, Captain Kirk spent most of his time week after week finding new and inventive ways of ignoring the Prime Directive rather than following it, but the principle never really changed. The whole idea behind the Federation was to not interfere with the development of any less advanced culture, that sharing sophisticated and advanced technology, especially when it comes to power systems and weapons, with a civilization and a species not mature enough to handle it would be a great way of condemning that species to self-destruction. This was the sort of thing that Captain Kirk did all the time, and a principle that he defended all the time. He was, as a matter of fact, willing to die rather than compromise on that principle. Or so he said until he violated it for some inventive reason later on in the episode. But here's what William Shatner said recently, quote, "You mean some highly advanced, intelligent being goes 10,000 light years with advanced technology, arrives here and hides? It doesn't make any sense. If they're going to make that journey all the way here, it just beggars the imagination that they would hide and make it like, peekaboo, I'm here, no I'm not." Well, wait a minute. Isn't this exactly what the Federation did over and over again? Now, granted, they did their best to remain completely out of sight, to visit and study other cultures without them being aware of their presence whatsoever. But perhaps these particular aliens, extraterrestrials, whatever you want to call them, don't have technology advanced enough to completely hide from our most advanced military radars and other detection systems. Keep in mind that many of the encounters that were described by the UFO whistleblowers occurred right after the military got access to a new generation of radar detection systems. These things could have been flying around for decades undetected until a sudden change in our capabilities allowed us to find them. Now, of course, why didn't they adapt? Why didn't they find a new place to hide if they wanted to remain undetected? Well, keep in mind that if these are robotic probes with particular instructions and a particular mission and set of parameters that they're supposed to operate under, a sudden change in circumstances might not trigger an immediate reaction from them. Instead, they might have instructions to observe our aircraft, determine what our new capabilities are, whether or not we present any sort of viable threat to them, and then change their behavior, which, by the way, is what they seem to have done under all of these circumstances. For a while, they came very close to our aircraft, tested their abilities, and then adapted, disappearing from view again after a brief rash of sightings in one particular area. At least that seems to be the modus operandi that we've been observing up to this point, and it makes a great deal of sense. Either these visitors have no desire to influence or change the development of our civilization, or perhaps are simply concerned about making any sort of contact with these extremely aggressive, hostile, and unpredictable creatures, because that is precisely what we are. It makes a great deal of sense, and I'm not sure where Bill Shatner is coming from. By the way, when I use the word cover-up, I'm not saying that there's any sort of conspiracy going on here. Rather, it's just the desire of many humans to protect the dominant paradigm. The truth is they have always understood it to be. It's very disconcerting to think that we have had alien visitors lurking about our skies for the last half century or maybe even longer than that, and we've been powerless to do anything about them. Far more simple and far more reassuring to say that these whistleblowers are either mistaken, lying, or out of their minds. However, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, head of AARO, was very condemnatory of the testimony, accusing all of the witnesses essentially of lying about the subject, and he found the testimony to be insulting. Quote, "As the director of AARO's amazingly talented, devoted, and highly motivated team, I cannot let yesterday's hearing pass without sharing how insulting it was to the officers of the Department of Defense and intelligence community who chose to join AARO. Many with not unreasonable anxieties about the career risks this would entail that have been working diligently, tirelessly, and often in the face of harassment and animosity to satisfy their congressionally mandated mission. They are true seekers, as am I, but you certainly would not get that impression from yesterday's hearing." A rational person watching the hearing might reasonably assume that both the witnesses and the members had an understanding of our departments and our progress since the establishment of AARO around this time last year, only naturally leading them to conclude that AARO has been ineffective, non-transparent, and delinquent in its legislated mission. AARO briefs the Defense and Intel committees regularly, and since the last NDAA, the Homeland Defense, S&T, and other committees as well. I am deeply disappointed at the denigration of AARO's dedicated men and women hailing from the Department of Defense, intelligence community, and civil partners who are pouring their hearts out working this issue on the behalf of Congress. AARO has the authorities and resources necessary to execute this mission to meet congressional intent, and as we've stated before, AARO welcomes anyone with knowledge of these allegations or programs to talk to us in a safe, secure, and appropriately cleared environment. Rest assured, AARO will follow the data wherever it leads. Finally, to be clear, AARO has yet to find any credible evidence to support the allegations of any reverse engineering program for non-human technology. Also, to be clear, none of the whistleblowers from yesterday's hearing ever worked for AARO or was ever a representative to AARO, contrary to statements made in testimony and in the media. Obviously, this whole situation has Dr. Kirkpatrick seriously pissed off, and for understandable reasons. His department, in my opinion, has been making a significant effort to dig up as many verifiable facts about UAPs as they possibly can, and then presenting as much information as they are cleared to do in front of the public and the rest of it in a secured environment to Congress, which is not exactly what happened during the testimony of the three whistleblowers. But that's what whistleblowing's all about, isn't it? To go outside the parameters of normal procedure. And Dr. Kirkpatrick should not be terribly surprised that these men went and did that, given what they allegedly have seen. Now, once again, if they haven't seen these things or are exaggerating, then that's a serious crime, because they've done it under oath before Congress. That's something that should put all three of these men in prison, especially given their careers and their reputations and the lofty positions that they held in the military. Let's have a look once again at these three men. Lieutenant Ryan Graves is a former Navy fighter pilot who worked on advanced research and development programs from DARPA, the Office of Naval Research, and Air Force research labs on the topics of multi-agent collaborative autonomy, AI-assisted air-to-air combat, and manned-unmanned teaming technologies. He was deployed twice in Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Inherent Resolve. He has a bachelor's degree in mechanical and aerospace engineering from the Worcester Polytechnic Institute. David Grush is a decorated combat officer with the United States Air Force during the war in Afghanistan and a veteran of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, or the NGA, and the National Reconnaissance Office, or NRO. From 2019 to 2021, he was the representative of the NRO to the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force. In other words, a representative to AARO. From late 2021 to July of 2022, he was the co-lead for UAP analysis at the NGA and its representative to the task force. He assisted in drafting the National Defense Authorization Act of 2023, which includes provisions for reporting of UFOs, including whistleblower protections and exemptions to non-disclosure orders and agreements. This fellow seems to have had a lot more connection to AARO and to the government's investigation of UAPs than Dr. Kirkpatrick seems to believe. Now, either Mr. Grush actually has this background, or he's lying about it. And not only is he lying about his background, he somehow managed to pull the wool over many representatives in Congress's eyes. How the hell would he manage to do that, especially given the fact that these members of Congress, many of whom are on a variety of defense committees, could easily gain access to his records? On top of that, he has made promises to present some of the evidence that he has for his claims, things that he's not allowed to do in public, but to share his evidence with some of these representatives in private if they wish to have it. And we must assume that since those hearings he has had those meetings with these congressional representatives, or if he hasn't, they certainly would have had something to say about it and would be trying to expose him as a fraud right now. Regardless of Mr. Grush's claims, and even though he doesn't appear to have any direct tangible evidence, in other words, he didn't observe these things happening himself, it's very difficult to dismiss his claims as either the ravings of a deluded person or the lies of an individual trying to pull off an elaborate hoax. And then finally, there's the most credible witness, in my opinion, the man who allegedly saw the Tic Tac UFOs back in 2004, Commander David Fravor. He joined the military at the age of 17 years. He has a career spanning 24 years, 18 of which he was a Navy fighter pilot. He had completed 5 tours to the Persian Gulf starting after Operation Desert Storm, and he commanded a squadron of 12 aircraft with a total staff of 330 airmen. Now, we need to keep in mind that his particular encounter was not prompted by a visual sighting. Instead, it was the USS Princeton's new radar arrays that were picking up objects moving in erratic fashion and really in manners that were inconsistent with any sort of current modern-day aircraft. They therefore sent his squadron to investigate, and that's when Commander Fravor, together with his wingman, encountered these tic-tac objects along with some sort of much larger craft lurking just beneath the surface of the ocean. All of his observations were confirmed by the USS Princeton's radar, along with numerous other detection systems from the U.S. military. And given his position, Commander Fravor had an opportunity to see these records to confirm that what he saw was not some sort of bizarre hallucination. And what he saw were craft traveling at hypersonic speeds up to Mach 7, capable of climbing up to suborbital space and then abruptly dropping from that altitude, things that aircraft were incapable of doing, especially in 2004. Regardless of whether you think these claims are crazy, regardless of whether they don't make any sense or not, you can't simply dismiss stuff like this. You cannot dismiss witnesses this credible, witnesses with unblemished records, witnesses with no history of making up tall tales or elaborate hoaxes, witnesses who must be taken seriously and taken at their word. And if that is indeed the case, we cannot simply sweep this under the rug and try to go back to our nice, comfortable paradigm. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and please subscribe. It's so important to the success of my channel. And also check the description for various ways to support this content. And as always, stay angry about space.